Hi, it's Sherry Kalergis, live in Vancouver with At 45 magazine for When Life Changes. And today we're continuing our series of Women in Art. And I am so thrilled to have Cheryl Bodnar with us today. Cheryl is a Canadian artist born and raised in the prairies, and she lives here on the West Coast with her husband and grown children. She spent her life creating, drawing, sketching, and creating crafts in between her career as a nurse, educator, wife, and of course, mother. And creating has always been a part of her life. And we are so excited to hear about how she has created art and her career in the art field. So welcome, Cheryl.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Oh, I'm thrilled to have you. So you were born on the prairies, as was I. I went to high school in Saskatchewan, and I went to elementary school in Alberta. Whereabouts were you born?
I was born in Humboldt, Saskatchewan, and lived in Saskatchewan. I didn't live there, but lived mostly in the Estevan and Regina area, and moved out here during Expo. And well, I was a nurse, and I nursed in Regina as well. But I moved out here onto the coast, and have been here ever since. Love it.
Oh, and Expo was a perfect time to come to Vancouver.
It was.
I think lots of people arrived around then. It really put Vancouver on the map of Canada, I think, and the world.
It did.
So, what style of painter are you?
I'm mostly a representational style of painter. I'm not really abstract and I'm not high realism. Um, so mostly representational. And I try in my paintings to really get a strong sense of light and dark. And I mostly work from photographs that I've taken myself and have a strong sense of light in the photograph already. Yeah, that's mostly what I do.
Well, I can see some of the pictures that you've got behind you, but I am in love with your series. It's like cedars in wood, and you are in the wood, and you've got different perspectives of the light coming through, and I just adore those. They're very beautiful, and so. How did you get involved in painting and that particular, and we're drawn to that particular type?
I I think I've always sketched, and I've done a lot of horses as well, and I'm in love with the horse. So if you've
Mhm.
seen any of my paintings of horses on my website, you'll see that I started sketching when I was younger, but didn't really have time for it, or didn't really dedicate myself to that. And I started doing crafts and those sorts of things when my kids were babies, and doing little bits of painting. But I started taking art lessons at a community center, and that was quite a few years ago now. I'm thinking it's about 20, but I'm not sure, 15 to 20, and just sporadically. And I found it a great stress relief for. I was an intensive care unit nurse, and there's a lot of stress and pressure, and you carry a lot of emotion with you. And I found that it really helped sort of use another part of my brain and just sort of relax. And that's how I started with painting. And then I got hooked. and I I love the Impressionists, and I do take a lot of lessons from master painters, and I love the Impressionist work as well. So I'm kind of representational Impressionist kind of a painter, and
And
I feel
go
like I'm a
ahead.
little bit. I feel like I'm really passionate about painting, very very passionate about it.
And now that you have been doing it for a while, it's a stress reliever in your life. but also, how do you feel when you start to paint? Like what feelings does it bring to you?
Most days when I'm in my studio painting, um, there's a lot of thought that goes behind the painting, of course. There's a lot of thinking of composition and those sorts of things. But once I do start to paint, I almost get immersed in it. I can almost, I've said before, I almost disappear. Like time passes very quickly, and I can get really lost in the work, and I just feel calm and um, just kind of really attached to whatever I'm working on. That's on a good day. When you have a bad day as a painter, you feel frustrated and can't quite get it. So I just stop painting on those days and I clean the studio or I do something else, that gesso canvases or something that takes my mind away from it. But most of the time and when I'm having a really good day painting, it's almost like you're floating, right?
Mhm.
You just become a part of it.
I think it's such a gift. I've said before, I know nothing about art, but my mother used to sketch and draw in
Mhm.
color. And I'm always fascinated by the fact that, you make a conscious effort to go like into your studio and actually start to create. So do you like have a schedule set up in your day where you're always going to your studio, or do you do it when you feel a certain feeling, or?
I'm pretty dedicated to going to my studio almost every day. Um, if I don't, I usually get out first thing in the morning and go for a long walk or something just to kind of get my exercise in during COVID, especially.
Yes.
And
Know
then
exactly what you mean.
yeah. And then I will spend anywhere from 4 to 6 hours in the studio.
Wow.
I treat it like my full-time work. I kind of treat it like a full-time job. And then of course there's other times, I might take a weekend off or whatever. I have a husband as well, and we do things together. So um, yeah, I do spend time.
Very interesting. So, are you still involved in the medical field, or
I have retired.
you've retired?
I did. I retired, and I really loved my career. I also spent time as an educator, and I also was on faculty as an instructor for nursing. And I loved teaching and mentoring. I really loved teaching and mentoring. Um, and I always mentored the younger nurses when I was at work. I found that to be a very sort of strong skill of mine. And so I've started as well. I teach a little bit of painting to beginners as well. I was doing that before COVID
Oh,
struck, but now, of
wow.
course, it's on hold. So, yeah, I do teach, but I teach beginner painters. And yeah, I love that. I like the teaching aspect as well.
Oh, that sounds so fun. Yeah, when you're good at something and you have that ability to help people along with your knowledge, it's so rewarding.
It's very rewarding.
So, do you have a key piece of wisdom that you'd like to share with women who are contemplating a renewed sense of self or a renewal of some sort, which for many women that is an artistic kind of endeavor that they haven't had a chance for before?
Hmm. I do actually. I think that I think it's really important just to start. Just take that step to start and be brave, and know that um, it is going to be baby steps. It's going to be small steps, and they will all build on themselves. And don't give up. When I started painting as well, there were many days when I was in a classroom and I thought, I am not good at this. This is not, I am not good at this. And you just persevere and stay with it, and reach out to other people who you admire, who are open to discussion with you about art and about starting painting or whatever it is you're starting. Just really put the feelers out and reach out to people, and just stay with it. Just persevere.
So is there a technique or something that you had trouble learning that you can share, how you approach solving that or learning it?
When I first started painting, I had a very difficult time with the concept of values. And I don't know why, but it just didn't make sense to my brain when I very first started. Although I was painting and my paintings looked like I knew my values, I just had a difficult time understanding that concept. And I just kept researching it. I kept looking it up myself and discussing it with other artists. And I think you'll learn little things along the way and the penny will drop. And you'll learn a little bit more and the penny will drop and you go, ah, that's what they mean by that. And and I think it's just a matter of sticking with it and researching it yourself and asking different people about different concepts.
So values in painting is different than values as a person. And so what does values in painting mean? Like what what exactly is that?
The values is the lightness and darkness. And we
Ah,
usually, I use it on a scale of 1 to 9 or 1 to 5, depending on what I'm painting. And the lightness and darkness in a black and white can be different when you start adding color to it, because colors will change when you mix them with other colors. They become a different value. And
ah.
that was the concept I had trouble with. I seem to be doing it naturally on my canvas, but when I had to think about it and speak to it, I had a difficult time with that. But now I understand it now.
You do. And now we do too, because I've heard painters mention value before, and I kept thinking, I'm not exactly sure what that is. So I'm really glad you explained it. Thank you. So do you have a favorite book that's totally changed the way you thought about life, and why?
Well, I think there have been many books published that have changed the way I think about life. Certainly all the Eckhart Tolle books and all of those,
He's so
self-help kind of
fabulous.
books.
His
Yeah,
That's my favorite book. The Power of Now is
yes,
my favorite books.
yes. Books on boundaries, personal boundaries, those sorts of things. But the very first book that I ever read that changed my view of myself as a woman is, it's an older book and it's called Women Who Run with the Wolves.
I've never
And it
heard
was
it.
by Clarissa Estes Pincola. She has a PhD. And yeah, that was the first book that kind of made me think, hey, wait a minute here. Am I being my authentic self? Am I being who I want to be? And it started me on that process and that journey of finding my voice. That was a big thing. And that was many years ago I read that book.
Oh, what's the name of it again?
Women Who Run with the Wolves.
What a fascinating name.
Yes, it is.
So can you just tell me a little bit about the book?
She uses different examples of. I haven't read it for a long time, but just different examples, almost connected to the spirit world too, a little bit
Uh,
of of you as a woman. You have inside yourself. You do have a ferocity and a ferociousness that should come out in a nice way, but you should stand up for yourself. It talks a lot about women who've been raised in maybe abusive or violent homes or alcoholic homes, and the impact that it has on your psyche, but how you can recover from that, how you can look at yourself and change from that.
oh,
That's kind of the gist of the book.
that sounds fascinating. And I wonder if she did a TED talk, because
She might have.
yes, I think that I watched a TED talk either with her or somebody talking about that book, and they were talking about the science behind if you're going to go into a big meeting, and I this was in my previous life when I had all these big high-powered meetings, if you were struggling with being assertive, the recommendation was go in the washroom and hold your arms up above and sort of take the power from that. And it was back to the whole thing about being ferocious, that when you
Mhm.
stand up and you put your arms up, you're actually invoking that, um, that position of power. And yeah, so fascinating. I'm going to look that book up. It's I haven't read it. It hasn't been on my radar, but I'm going to. So thank you for sharing that. So what is a piece of learning that sort of stood the test of time for you in your life?
I think the I think probably the biggest piece of learning along the way was to be honest and truthful, and speak up for yourself, and don't be afraid of what other people think about that. Like, I was always very cautious and probably still am a bit, but very careful. Um, didn't want to speak out too much because I guess I was a people pleaser. Wanted everybody to kind of like me. And that's not possible in life. No, not everybody is going to like you. And that's okay, right? That's okay. And so that was probably the biggest learning I had, was that not everybody's going to like me, but that's okay. I still have a right to be authentic and speak my own truth.
Right.
And it actually empowered me a lot. And yeah, that was probably the biggest thing.
And I don't think you're alone in that. I would venture to say that most women start out being people pleasers.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we were actually talking about that on our Fabulous Friday TV show a couple weeks ago, and the fact that you know we as women we learn from an early age that we're supposed to be helpful. We're the ones stepping up to help
Mm-hmm.
people, and often that's at the expense of ourselves. And I know that's my personal story, being the oldest child in a large family. I gave up myself and I never actually learned how to take care of myself and my own needs because I was
Mm-hmm.
always putting everyone else first. And in this busy world, if you're doing that, the only person that sort of lacks attention is yourself. And I think it's a common problem with women.
Yes, I think it is too. And I think as we age, and certainly um, with the dawning of new self-help books and all of these things, awareness, the media awareness, I think that that's changing. And as myself, as I've aged and gotten older, you tend to care a little bit less about that, what people think about you. And you're like, yes, I know, but you know what? This is where I'm going in life, and that's where I'm going. And um, you don't worry as much about that, about how others might perceive you.
And it's true. And, too bad that we have to get to a certain age to learn that lesson. But thank goodness, I mean, that's the blessing, I think, of aging, right? When we're younger, we think, oh, we don't want to be older. But gosh, there's some great things about our personal self that only comes with that age and that power of being older and
Hmm.
not caring,
Yeah,
not
that's right.
caring so much. So where do you plan to go with your painting? What kind of hopes and aspirations do you have as far as the painting?
Well, I certainly hope that that my painting business starts to flourish, as it does slowly, a bit more. I am an active member of the Federation of Canadian Artists, and I belong to some other art societies, which has helped me a great deal. I would like to certainly further my technique and paintings that so that they're a little more as I grow and change, that they grow and change with me. I see that in other artists that, you know, you start off, sometimes people start off as a realism artist and they move to abstract or they go back to something else. So I can see myself trying different media, different styles of painting as well.
Now, one thing I think that every woman, you know, is always curious about is buying paintings, you know, um, because the fact is, you know, we go into Winners or something like that, and we see all these prints, and we think, oh, you know,
Mm-hmm.
$100, $200. Um, but for it's easy nowadays, I think, for us to buy original art. I mean, it needs
Mm-hmm.
to become more mainstream. So when you're looking at spending a substantial pieces, you know, of money in a budget or budgeting, you know, you're creating a new living room and you want a new look. Often we're trying to find paints that or art that matches, you know, our colors or that. But is there a particular perspective you have or you can share with women about buying original art? You know, the approach.
I think um, I think you have to buy what appeals to you. I I really believe that. You know, there are lots of different styles of art. There's different color schemes. There's different sizes. But it's, you know, we always say that art is, it's really an emotional purchase. There's something about it that just appeals to you and on a strong level. And I have bought many other artists' art, and it's always, I know right away when I see it, it's like, I really love that. I don't know why, but I really love it. And that's usually what my purchase is. It's that strong emotional connection. And you know, I've never been sorry.
Mm,
I've never been sorry when I've bought a painting based on that. I bring
right.
it home and I never tire of it.
So
So,
so I think that's good advice. It's don't look for colors, you know, that match your living room, but look for a piece that speaks to you emotionally.
yeah, I think so.
And where can people find your paintings? What's your website? Do you,
You, if you just look up Cheryl Bodnar on Google, it'll take
okay,
you to my website. It's Cheryl's Paint, all one word. I'm on Instagram as well, Cheryl's
okay,
Paint, all one word, and on Facebook, Cheryl Bodnar Art.
great.
Yeah,
Well, it's been so enlightening to talk to you.
it's been so nice to talk to you too and to meet you.
Same here. That's the great thing about technology nowadays. It's you have this ability and capacity to be able to meet people all over the world. And I have to say, I don't get to meet a lot of people from Saskatchewan.
I know, I love it. Prairie people. There's something very special about prairie people. We don't
I,
know what it is, but it's there.
I agree with you totally. Well, thanks again for sharing your expertise and your beautiful personality with us today.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.